That's
You started in Facebook yet?
We started. Yeah, this is the Beat Cops Guide. Hopefully we're going okay. Looks like we are. So this is the Beat Cops Guide. I'm David Haynes. That's Bull Garlington. We're on Zoom. And it's Friday night, so I'm planning on hitting the town virtually. So that's what I'm doing. What are you doing?
We're going to paint the town digital.
Oh, your volume is sounding kind of low. I don't know if that's just...
Oh, man.
But
I can never get it right.
It might be I just have the volume turned down, so I'll try and...
Well,
right.
I got a new computer.
That's better.
And, all right, I got a new computer. Damn it. And, it doesn't have a USB port. I mean, the last time I bought a Mac, they turned off the, they took out the disc, the DVD, the compact disc thing. That was gone.
Right. Yeah, it's gone.
I was like, yeah. And then I got my new Mac recently because I dropped the other one and screwed it up, and it doesn't have a USB port.
No USB ports?
Plug it in. Nope. I can't plug anything into it. I can't plug a microphone into it. It doesn't have headphone jacks either. Oh wait, it looks like it might have a headphone jack right there. Maybe I should give that a shot.
Well, yeah, because I could just tell when you're leaning over towards the computer, your voice went way up. So your headphones are not attached by the microphone. So you're not speaking into the microphone of the headphones, and you're not listening to me. So. Yeah,
I am listening to you. God damn it!
As soon as you lean down towards the computer, your voice, the volume went way up. The microphone on the computer is how your voice is coming through the, not the microphone on your headphones. So just so you know that.
Well, that's stupid.
Hey, listen, I got to start off. I got to start off by saying something. Yesterday on our podcast near the end, I made a mistake on the numbers. Looking back, it seems like a simple math problem. I was talking about how it didn't seem that people were being reported as recovering from this, and it said something about 75% 75% of our resolutions seem to be ending up in death, and I thought that was strange, and it's because I was counting wrong. The math is the amount of people who die times the amount of people who are infected, not based on the outcome that's later. So I made a mistake yesterday. So
we're not
we're
not journalists. We don't have to apologize.
I read some stories on it overnight, and I was like, it seemed obvious when I was looking at it. I was like, wait a minute, Illinois seems to be reporting that 75% of the resolutions are 75% of the people are dying. And I said, either they're not reporting that people are getting better, or people are not getting better, which is a problem. And I realized after reading some stories that the death rate is determined by the number of deaths divided by the number of people who get infected, and so we're at 1%. And the number of people who are getting infected are far below 1% of the population, and the people who are dying are at 1% of the people who get infected.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
How's my sound now?
Sounds great.
All right. Well, that's good. I didn't hear anything you said, by the way.
All right. Well, it's all I was doing was making the point that yesterday on the podcast I said the wrong numbers, and so I wanted to correct that. So you weren't listening to me yesterday anyway, so it doesn't really matter if you were listening this time.
What'd you say? You know what? Here's the thing.
When you do that, I cannot tell if you can't hear me or if you're just not listening. So remember, we have a technological problems that you can't mess around with stuff like that.
We have to remember, and other people have to remember too, that we're just two old dudes fucking around. I mean, we're not okay. I am a journalist, but not here, not on this.
Right.
This is not my job,
Well,
and we're just goofing around, and we don't have to be correct. You know what I mean? It's not. We're not responsible for anything. We
right. But I also,
got out the New York Times.
yeah, and I mean, I'm also like, I'm trying to ask the questions. I mean, I'm not. I don't ever say that I have all the right answers, but I like to think that I have questions that I notice that nobody's answering. You know, like all of a sudden, since I started talking about this, and I started paying closer attention, the number of people who are recovering from the coronavirus has tripled and quadrupled in the last few days. And,
Yeah, I think that's to be expected.
and my question was how come they seem to be reporting all of the deaths, but not any of the recoveries? And they there's only, you have to go looking for the number of people who have recovered from this, and
Yeah.
you know, and there's also you also have to go looking for the fact that they've really drastically downgraded the number of people they expect to get it, like over the last few days, which is good. Either that or there's a lot of people who get it and don't get symptomatic. I read this fantastic article yesterday that went into a lot of these numbers and tried to explain them in a way that some idiot like me can understand. And it was Andrew McCarthy on National Review, I think, and he's been studying these numbers and trying to break it down to where people can understand. And one of the things that I didn't know is that there's actually two things. There's the virus, and COVID-19 is actually the disease that's caused by the virus. I didn't realize there were two different things. There's a virus called COV.
I didn't either.
Yeah, COV, SARS-CoV number 2, and you know, I'm not even checking to see if we're.
We're on Facebook. Hey, hang on 1 second.
All right. What do you mean, hang on? So you're going to walk away? All right, so that's, you know, I guess it's just me because, you know, because Bull has to walk away and do whatever the hell he's doing.
Well, my dog opened the door, and my wife is on a call, and I'm doing this thing, and so I'm just trying to be cool, you know?
All right, so one of the things that I was reading that I did not understand until last night is that there's actually two different things. There's the virus, which is called SARS-CoV-2. That's the virus. And when you get that virus, it causes the disease COVID-19. So when you hear these numbers, when you go for a test, they're testing to see if you have the virus, which makes sense because the virus leads to the disease, and the disease is what kills you. But what they don't make the point is that some people get the virus and don't get COVID-19. So you would be positive for the virus, but you wouldn't get the disease that could hurt you, which means there may be a lot of people, a lot of people who are who have the virus and are passing the virus on, but whose body just deals with the virus and they never get sick at all. And if that's the case, which we won't know until they start doing antibody tests after this all fades away, it very well could be that most people in the United States have already received and processed and gotten rid of the virus. And we won't know that. We won't know that, so there's no way to know that until after this is all passed. But so I don't know. It was an interesting story, and they were talking about numbers. Oh, that's nice.
What?
That's nice. The background.
The beach?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was tired of being at home. You know, so I was like, you know, fuck that. Let's go to the beach, and that's where I'm at right there.
There you go. So what do you think about all that, or do you even think about it? Do you even pay attention?
I am. Yeah. I mean, we've got the news going 24/7 right now, which is probably not healthy. And it certainly hasn't done anything for my personal ability to remain calm. I've had, for the first time in my life, a very low-key panic attack. I've never had I've panicked once in my life before this, And
Right
that
before
was
you
like,
asked your wife to marry you.
yeah, I was like, whoa, I thought you were going to say no, and so I I panicked once when my son got hurt, and so I since then I just don't panic that much, and I don't really stress out much either because I don't care about stuff, and but I did the other day. I had a little bit of a panic attack, and I'm kind of hoping that doesn't happen anymore. I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy it at all.
I had them when I was younger. I haven't had any, although I do, especially when my son was born. When you first become a parent, you have that low grade panic that goes on when they're babies and then comes back when they start walking and then comes back when they go to school.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was feeling this low grade. I'm at a point now, especially because of my job where I have to deal with the public and stuff, that I have gotten kind of beyond the worrying that I'm going to catch it and assuming that I'm going to catch it, and more worrying about what's going to happen to my kids and my wife when they catch it, because, they when I say they, the politicians and the news media have really convinced me that we're all going to get it. When you watch it, it's just like it's just a question of trying to slow it down so that other people don't get it, And I don't know. Sometimes you see people on TV saying that, well, not everybody's going to get it, but most of the people are saying everybody's going to get it at some point. So I don't know.
I don't think they're saying everybody's going to get it.
That's kind of
I think they're saying there's a certain number of people that statistically are quite probably going to get it, but I don't think it's everybody.
Well, I don't know. It seems like that's what they're saying when I watch the people, Although it is amusing to I watch like the different the governor and the president give briefings, and it is interesting to see. It's a little disconcerting to watch the president give a speech, because one day it seems like he's trying to calm everybody's fears, and the next day he seems like he's trying to make everybody understand that this is really bad, and so it's a little kind of up and down. And then it's made worse by when you see all the media who when he's trying to make everybody feel better will criticize him and tell everything's really a lot worse than it is. And whenever he's trying to say things are bad, they criticize him and say everything is really not that bad. So it's like a whole little, I don't know, tug of war going on whenever I watch any of the people on TV. But
gosh, that poor guy.
It's not him. It's us. That's the poor us.
I'm so sorry that he has to deal with, people listening to him and responding to what he says. What a nightmare that must be.
It's just, I mean, it's for us. It's like, it's disconcerting to see him seesawing, and then everybody else seesawing in relation to him is really strange. So. Although it does. A lot of the politicians do annoy me. I think Governor Pritzker, said one of the most profound and true statements of this whole thing, which is that all these people, the governor, the mayor, the president, everybody, is basically dealing with you have two choices, a bad choice and a really bad choice, and you have to figure out which is the least bad. Everything they do is trying to minimize the damage. And I thought that was a very profound way of saying it, and I thought he's absolutely right. Everything, it's especially in the beginning, was so bad you had to make these decisions, and you're just trying to make whatever is going to do the least amount of damage. But then 5 minutes later, he turns around and tells how everybody else is doing the worst thing they could possibly do. So it kind of takes away from that. Although I agree, and I was on the radio this morning, and I was talking about it, that, hey, we elected the governor, we elected the mayor to take care of this shit that we don't understand. So when they give these orders to stay inside, we should be obeying them, and we should be really trying to do the separation, because we have to assume that they're going based on the best scientific evidence they got. And
I agree.
Whether I think that they're overblowing it or not, you can't. I won't know if that's correct for 2-3 months. So we're better off listening to what they say and separating. And
I think it's true at the national level too. I mean, we've got some pretty great people that are talking about this and giving guidance, and we definitely need to pay attention to them.
Yeah.
Um, you know, Fauci, is that his name? Fauci?
Yeah.
That guy is unflappable, and his, so whatever he says, I'm like, yep, I'm going to do that thing. But enough about the COVID-19.
Wait, one more thing about that. Just one more thing, because
Okay, yeah.
this will kind of go off on a tangent and lead us out of COVID-19. But the one of the things that was under discussion today, I think Trump made some comment about it, but the idea that going forward, regardless of how this ends up, we should stop shaking hands as a form of greeting. And I thought it's an interesting topic that we should have. And I'm wondering what you think about it. Should people stop shaking hands?
It's going to be hard, but on the other hand, shaking hands is kind of stupid. But it's
when you
also
think
like
about it, it really is. You're right.
It's one of the most common. It's one of the most common human interactions. Period. But I mean, there's two things in this day and time, even without coronavirus, that you should never do, really, when you think about it. One is shake hands, and the other one is borrow someone's phone. Don't do either of those things, because their hands and their phone are just they're vats, they're bubbling vats of disease. They're crawling with germs. And nobody until this crisis, no one in America who isn't a doctor washes their hands correctly. I watched a tutorial on hand washing the other day where instead of removing like a stain, the guy put a stain on as if that was the soap and then washed his hands. And it took a long time to get his hands completely coated with the color. And I realized how much work actually goes into washing your hands if you do it properly. And now I hate life because that's a lot of work.
If anybody's, I watched a tutorial by Dr. Oz on how to wash your hands, and basically, he was talking about how they actually have a class in medical school. One of the first classes you have is how to wash your hands, and I mean, there's like a whole system. And I've been trying to wash my hands the way they do it, and I have to say I have never washed my hands like that in my entire life until I watched that tutorial.
I mean, what kind of horror have I been spreading through the world? I mean, my God, I'm like typhoid, Marky Mark or something. There's this, my hands basically going from my ass to the food to the rest of the world all the time.
I mean, I used to wash my hands, and rinse them off. Now it's like I'm all the way up to the wrists. I'm digging into the fingers, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, I have to say, it's been a weird thing learning how to wash my hands at the age of 52.
I remember when I went to junior high a million years ago, there were still people then. And we had a home ec class, and that's where I learned a lot of, they taught you some basic crap, how to bake something, how to cook, how to measure. It was just basic stuff. And I'm like, I think we need to bring that class back and add hand washing.
Yeah, they don't have home ec classes anymore.
No. I wonder if that's a business opportunity.
Yeah, we could do a hand washing class. Can I just say something? You just made an offhanded comment that when you were in junior high, back when there were still people.
Yeah.
I just want to, if any ladies are out there watching, I just want you to understand something, that if me and Bull are going to be the last two men left alive. So for all you women who said not if you were the last man on earth, we're going to be the last men on earth. So we're about to become very popular.
Take a look at this. Take a look at this.
This is all you got left.
This is your future, baby. Right here. All your kids are going to look like sick frogs.
All right, so you were going to go off of COVID-19 onto something else. What?
Yeah, I have no idea where I was going to go. I'm overwhelmed by two things. I'm overwhelmed by what's actually happened, because it really is kind of terrifying. And I'm finding out that people that I kind of knew have died, and I found out that people in our neighborhood have died, uh, and I'm realizing the virulent nature of how this thing spreads, and how different it is from the way that flu spreads, and it just it's a lot to carry around, and now my daily habits have gone from what we were talking about a minute ago, where basically we're walking septic tanks, to now I'm like an obsessive compulsive person who's addicted to Lysol, and so all that stuff is uh, I would like a break, but I literally there's nowhere to go. And I can't go to the parks because that's inappropriate, and I can't. So I can go out in my yard, but hopefully tomorrow it'll be warmer, and maybe
Yeah.
I will. I don't know.
Well, actually, the one thing that I really annoyed me, a lot of the stuff, because I have to work with, and I worry about this, and I've been going along with the governor and the mayor on a lot of this stuff, even if I think it's overblown. The one thing that really annoyed me was yesterday afternoon, the governor decided that golf courses were going to be closed, which I was like, if you're within 10 feet of another golfer, then you're doing it wrong. So, I mean, it's like, in reality, it's the most separated thing that we do. And I suppose, I was trying to be philosophical. I suppose it's because you have to go into the pro shop to sign in. And I guess that there is that one sort of funnel that everybody has to go through that determines that it's closed. But maybe we should just make them all free.
I think that what should happen is you and I should start a whole separate video cast of exercising. You and me should do an exercise class. we should teach people how to exercise.
Speaking of things that
yoga, you'll do the yoga, all right, and I'll do P90X. So
what's P90X?
I have no idea. I don't know. Somebody suggested it in the chat room. I'm really not sure. I don't know if it's a drug or an exercise program. I'm not sure what P90X is.
There, you know what? Speaking of things that are online that are pretty cool, Josh Gad is doing bedtime stories. Do you know who Josh Gad is? He was Olaf in the Frozen.
Josh Gad.
Yeah, and he's doing bedtime stories, which my wife absolutely loves because he does all the voices and stuff. And so that's interesting. There are some interesting things. People are really starting to get more online, and I don't know. Maybe somebody will start listening to this thing. If anybody's, tell them in the chat room to please send people over to YouTube and the website so we can get some more listeners.
We need to shoot a PSA, and what we need to say is, if you're stuck in lockdown and you're worried about your parents, or your older brother, or a friend of yours who's past 50, who's isolated and lonely and has no one to talk to, and then after that we had the coronavirus thing, then you should turn them onto our podcast, because we're also over 50 and isolated and lonely, and we know what their life is like. We can give them comfort and let they too are not alone, even though.
Well, that would have been great if you would have been able to finish, but unfortunately you faded out there at the end and just paused, and it was just bull standing like this.
What do you mean?
You stopped moving, and it was just like this. You were like this, looking off into the future.
That's the statue that you should build of me.
So, do you notice the back?
I love being here in Ireland.
Have you noticed the background here is our fishing camp? So
yeah,
which I'm still planning on going fishing now. They canceled VidCon, so we're not. We were supposed to go to LA in June, and they canceled that. So that trip's off.
I don't think we're going to be going to fish camp, man.
Hopefully it'll be done by then. I'm telling you. Let me ask you this: as long as we're talking about now, like I said, even though regardless of whether you think it's overblown, you should be following the governor's and the mayor's edicts, at least in Illinois and whatever governor you have, to stay inside and social distance and all this other stuff. But how long do you think people will actually do it? I mean, that's
I think that well, okay, for me and Colleen, we're definitely looking at minimum the end of April. We assume we're going to be here through most of April. Um, but we're very fortunate because we have jobs that don't require us to go into the office. So we're not looking at a loss of income or anything like that, and we don't have little kids home from school to drive us crazy. But so it is driving us crazy to be home because we want to leave and go do stuff. I think that by the end of April, there are going to be people that are itching to get out. I don't think they're going to because I think in the next 2 weeks we're going to see cinematic levels of chaos and sickness and death.
yeah, and I don't think so, and I think that's what's going to happen is because I think everybody's doing a very good job. And I think that our hospitals are better off. This has not ramped up nearly as much as I thought it would, and maybe I'm being too hopeful. But I think that we have done a lot of things that have flattened the curve, and I think that going forward, I would say by April 15th, people are going to see that we've kind of flattened the curve a little bit, and they're going to be. I don't want to stay inside. I don't.
And
we're going and I have to think about this as a police officer. I think we're going to start getting people that are going to say, F you, I'm not going to, I'm being handed a note. You can look and see what we're doing. So I think people are going to be saying, F you, I'm not going to listen to you. I can't give it right now. We got a half an hour. Yeah, they said 5 o'clock. Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Hi, Annie.
No, it's Michelle. So we're gonna have to, but anyway. So let's end on that note. So I mean, I really think that, and I worry about it as a police officer. This problem coming sooner than you would think about people just going, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not staying inside. And I'm telling all my guys to practice whenever you see somebody, practice cajoling them into following the rules. Because if you're right and it goes at least till the end of April, we're going to have to be very diplomatic in how we deal with people who are coming outside. And because, I mean, we get people now.
I don't think you're going to have to worry about it, and here's why.
Well, we have to worry. As a police officer, I have to worry about it.
Right. But I don't think it's going to be – I predict that it's not going to be as bad for this reason. I don't think it's going to be bad in cities. I think maybe way out in rural areas people are going to get out of their house. But that's because it's not as populated. But in cities, people are going to stay in, and here's why. In the next couple of weeks, as things do ramp up. By the way, the numbers are not hopeful right now. The numbers are bad.
Well,
we're about to hit. If we probably hit 100,000 people in the U.S. by now today, and so that means that now we're about to hit that point where people that are infected are going to start showing signs, and they're going to start hitting hospitals. We're still behind. We still haven't hit the real rise of the curve yet. We haven't flattened anything.
Oh no! All the experts have said that we're actually ahead of the models. That we've kept it significantly below the models. And
what fucking experts are you listening to? Because that's not the way it's looking right now. What's it's looking like is people in major areas did not do it right, and they've really caused a serious problem. Florida and New Orleans both have absolutely screwed those regions because of their behavior.
Right.
And we started really late in keeping people at home, so we're not ahead of the curve. I don't know where you got that, but that is not the case. We're going to see.
I don't know who are you listening to. I mean, even CNN says that.
Fauci in 2.5 weeks.
Fauci said that.
I
was repeating Fauci.
I don't think he meant that we're ahead of the curve in terms of everything's about to be fine. I think we're ahead of the curve in terms of things are not going the way we wanted them to.
No. He
Cases
said that we're below projections, and we have to keep doing this because we're doing good. We're keeping things below. Dr. Birx was on yesterday talking about how they had at one point said that the UK had been talking about that there was up to 500,000 deaths in the UK and 2.2 million in the United States, and they've revised that down to 20,000 in the UK, and so gone from 500,000 to 20,000, and it's because of the actions that people have taken.
Well, let's hope that's true. But even with that, what I was getting to is, we people of our generation have never seen that, unless you were in a war theater. You've never seen death out in the open, and we're, even with the revised numbers, we're about to see that in the next 2.5 weeks. We're about to see this overwhelming thing. Even if it's not as overwhelming as we thought, it's still, there is no scenario where it doesn't overwhelm our hospitals. There's no scenario. There's no way we can ever get to zero. It's going to happen.
Well, there's no scenario we can get to zero, but there are scenarios in which it doesn't overwhelm the hospital. I mean, that's the whole point. That's what we're working towards.
Here's what I'm saying. We're going to start seeing on the news images of that are scary, and we're going to see numbers of deaths that are scary, and we're going to hear about people that we know. It might be even somebody in our close family. That's going to make people stay in. People are going to freak out, and they're going to be scared, and they're going to stay in because they know that's what's going to.
Well, I don't know if I should hope for that or not. I'm hopeful that everybody will follow. What?
I don't think we're hopeful for the deaths, but I do think we're hopeful for people's reaction.
Well, I'm hopeful that we everybody abides by social distancing and stays inside, and that we really flatten the curve, and it ends up not being. And the weather, if they could cooperate, would get warm, and then we would hopefully put this behind us. But we should end there because I got to go take care of some stuff. And what do you want to do this tomorrow or start up on Monday?
In November. All right.
Do you want to start tomorrow, or do you want? Or you want to come back Monday through Friday?
Let's go Monday through Friday.
All right. So we'll see you Monday around 4:00.
All right.
All right. Bye.